So, in talking about mitigators and talking about aggravators and testing, and I agree with this, that, and Dr. Denny, said this, that real world actions trump any testing, right? So the first one is visual spatial I'd like to talk to you about, okay? So you can look at the video about the defendant's visual spatial ability. Take the video, the school surveillance we just played, take it back. See if you think he has any problems with visual spatial. And then, how about this? He wants to be on the ROTC marksman team. In order to be on the marksmanship team, you have to hit a target first, the size of a quarter, from 10 meters. 10 meters is 32 plus feet away. It's hard for me to see at 32 feet, let alone hit a target the size of a quarter. You have to do that 3 times in a row. Then if you do that, then you have to hit a target the size of a nickel 3 times in a row. And then, if you do that, you have to hit the target the size of a dime 3 times in a row. And I submit to you, someone that can do that certainly doesn't appear to have any kind of visual spatial problems. And he's also got a badge for sharpshooter. The other one I want to talk about is about executive function. One of his YouTube comments, and I mentioned it before, I love to see the family suffer. Remember that? So you're asking me, what's that to do with executive function? I'll tell you, because it's not only looking to inflict pain, fear, and death to the murder victim. You're anticipating how that pain, fear, and death on the murder victim is going to affect the families. He's anticipating what his action in murder is going to do to the families. He's thinking ahead, just like playing chess. So that's why I feel that is really a good measure of executive function. Dr. Jones testified for the defense, and he said, although he didn't know anything about this offense or any of the defendants searching, prior mass shootings or what happened, that he felt that planning, the lack of ability to plan, is a hallmark of any of the disorders under FASD. Well, one of the hallmarks of this case is the ability to plan. And what he did in planning it, he not only planned it, he researched other mass shootings, he accumulated all kinds of apparatus, things to do and things to say. It was intensive planning. It was detailed. How long does it take a cop to respond to a school shooting? All that he did. He has the ability to plan and plan well. He accomplished his plan. And he has, obviously, the ability to reason. And I mentioned Dr. Scott. Dr. Scott is board certified in general psych. He's a medical doctor. He's board certified in general psychiatry, adult and adolescent psychiatry, addiction psychiatry, and forensic psychiatry. And I mentioned Dr. Denny. He's one of the 7 neuropsychologists, professionals, and they're both board certified in neuropsychology and forensic psychology. And they both, their opinion was that the defendant has antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and they diagnosed malingering. They did not diagnose him with any of the disorders that come under FASD, NDPAE, or ARND. They felt that it's antisocial personality and not a mental disease. He has the ability to control himself. He can control himself, and he does control his behavior. His actions are voluntary and volitional. They testified that the defendant, because of his antisocial personality, doesn't take blame, and he shifts responsibility. For instance, Linda Cruz, the defendant's mother, died, passed away, November the 1st, 2017. The defendant had been planning this mass murder long before Miss Cruz passed away. Back in June of 2017, he's looking up mass murders, McDonald's in San Diego. So one of the things, an example they were saying of him shifting blame was, if my mother didn't die, I wouldn't have done this. Yet, he writes on YouTube, on August the 11th, 2017, I punched my mom, dumb bitch, I say. And as I said, long before his mother passed away, he was planning to be a mass murderer. I would have not done this if someone loved me. I would have not done this if someone hugged me. And I would have not shot two of the girls and one of the campus monitors if they didn't give me a nasty look. There's a real shift for you. There is no brain damage. There is damage to his personality and to his character. And hate is not a mental disorder. And Dr. Denny and Dr. Scott testified that hate is part of antisocial personality. So let's look at hate here. There was a swastika on the defendant's boot when he was arrested. Remember at one time he said to somebody he didn't know what it meant, what a swastika meant? So on his backpack it says, F-ends and a swastika. You don't think he knew what it meant? He had a swastika on his boot. And you can take back with you his comments and what his search is for. He was searching for, remember, a Nazi flag. He wishes the Nazis won the war. You mean to tell me he doesn't know what a swastika means? There's a swastika on both sides of the magazine in the his rifle that he left on the third floor landing, the 5.56 M&P 15 Smith & Wesson AR-15 style rifle. And like I said, on the backpack. And then you look at the hateful racial comments he's made on YouTube, his hatred of women, his animal abuse, and his search for child pornography. And I'm not going to go over it. It's in evidence. You can look for his searches for little girl pornography. And then also examine what was found in his jail on May 8th of 2022, where the deputy found the 666 on the wall, all his drawings about encouraging and describing future mass murders. Dr. Denny, Dr. Scott said all that is antisocial personality. He can control it. It's not a mental disease. Then they gave examples of, they felt he was malingering. And I think a perfect example, and you heard it, I think Mr. Marcus played the audio tape of the defendant when he was firing on the first floor of the 1200 building, how rapidly he fired his gun. And you talk about finger tapping. So I think, and they said that was a good example of malingering, that finger tapping test. Another example is that he has a manipulative personality, not only with Scarlett Lewis. Remember, he goes back into jail after saying they love each other and they want to stop mass murders, and he's describing future mass murders and how to do it, how much it's going to cost, and how to kill people. He can control that. And Carrie Ann, I mentioned it before, she was his 8th grade middle school teacher. And what did she say? That it was all about him. What he wants and when he wants it, it's all about him. He can control himself. And he certainly controlled himself, she said, when Mr. Lindsay, the assistant principal, was in the room. We talk about, decisions, and you have to make a decision, on the aggravators and the mitigators. And the decision, you're looking for the right decision. And I submit to you that the right decision is a decision fortified by truth and justice. It takes into account the facts, the law, and the truth. It's the right decision for the right reason. And the right reason does not ignore the law or the justice that it brings. So, the defendant had a plan, and we discussed it. He carried it out. Tracer rounds, you all know my name. He wanted to be known. That was the goal of his plan, not just to kill at least 20 people, but when you see me on the news, you'll know who I am. Antisocial personality. Dr. Denny asked the defendant, and you saw the clip, anything else you want to tell me? Yeah. Why I did it on Valentine's Day. Why did you do it on Valentine's Day? I wanted to ruin it for others. Dr. Scott asked the defendant, why'd you stop shooting? Couldn't find anyone else to kill. Well, there's 17 individuals that were murdered, and you have to make 17 individual decisions. And I submit to you that the evidence and the testimony prove beyond any reasonable doubt the 7 aggravating factors. The 5 that are applicable to all 17 victims, and the 2 aggravating factors that were applicable just to Scott Beagle, Aaron Feiss, and Christopher Hickson. And those aggravating factors, remember, it's a weighing process, not a counting process. And prior convictions for capital offense knowingly cause great for fear of death of other people, heinous, atrocious, cruel, cold, calculated, and premeditated. They're all really, really, really heavy aggravators, and they outweigh any mitigation at all. They are so heavy in weight. So I submit to you that the aggravating factors are proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and that those aggravating factors outweigh by a ton any mitigating circumstances. And the appropriate sentences for Gina Montaldo, for Alex Schechter, for Luke Hoyer, for Martin Duque Aquilano, for Elena Petty, for Alyssa Alphadev, for Helena Ramsey, for Nicholas Durrett, for Carmen Shentrum, for Christopher Hickson, for Aaron Feiss, for Jamie Guttenberg, for Scott Beagle, for Kara Lockman, for Meadow Pollock, for Joaquin Oliver, and for Peter Wang, the appropriate sentence for Nikolas Cruz is the death penalty. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.